And Dr. Anna Molnár is a professor at the University of the Public Service in Budapest and head of the Department of International Security Studies. She received her PhD in International Relations from the Corvinus University of Budapest, um, and her published papers cover a wide range of topics, including security studies, Europeization of Hungary, and European Union's Mediterranean policy. So the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction. And I'm trying to share my screen. Just a minute. Can you see it right now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Sorry for that. Maybe this way it will, I hope it will work. And now?
Now we can see screen, but not yet presentation.
Not the presentation, sorry for that. Yes. It is strange because it's here. Just a moment. Sorry for. And right now, can you see my presentation?
We can see screen, and I think we need a moment to presentation will be uploaded.
Mm-hmm. Strange.
But we can't hear you. Dr. Molnar, your microphone is turned off. We can see presentation, but we can't hear you. You need to turn on your microphone.
And now, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, now we can hear you.
Good, thank you very much. Uh, that's great. And can you also see the presentation right now?
Yes, yes, now everything is great.
We use more the Teams at our university, so sometimes Zoom is strange for me, and my internet connection is not really good as well. But I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me for this conference, and I am going to talk about the growing role of the European Commission in defense capability development. And I would say that during the 90s, it was the Yugoslavian war. And in recent years, the full scale Russian aggression, and I also would say that the unprovoked Russian aggression in Ukraine gave new impetus to further develop and Europeanize the common security and defense policy of the European Union. And during the last decade, due to the deteriorating security environment in the European Union's neighborhood, mainly also in Ukraine, the European Union set the defense agenda in motion and started to launch new military related initiatives, sometimes breaking even some taboos on defense at the European Union. And in this field, the main game changer was, I would say, for the European Commission, the creation of the European Defense Fund. But I will talk about that. The new thing was that it was the first time that from EU budget it was possible to finance defense development and military related industrial development. So that was the first time. Although the defense industry and the market of the European Union is still fragmented in that way, defense market, and also it's underfinanced. The European Commission launched important initiatives. I will talk about them to overcome these challenges. The European Commission in the field of defense gained also attraction since the announcement of Ursula von der Leyen. Now she has going to have the second term, but she had an announcement during the Munich conference in 2024 in February this year about to appoint a commissioner within the European Commission for Defense. And she's going to start probably to select new candidates for commissioners, including also a person for the defense commissioner. We don't know yet who is going to be. There are some names. It could be Sikorski from Poland, but of course we cannot sure about that. And when we are talking about theoretical background, and also not only theories but also about concepts, Europeanization, historical institutionalist approach, or also the spillover effect can be mentioned. And there is a growing literature regarding the increasing role and the growing role of the European Commission in the field of security and defense. The common security and defense policy of the European Union is one of the newest policy areas of the European Union. It started to develop at the beginning of 2000. And according to Smith, after the launch of the CSDP, it became clear that this policy area was only partially Europeanized, and although following the Lisbon Treaty, the European Union intended to create more consistent CSDP and CFSP, Common Foreign and Security Policy leadership and institutional structure by the establishment, for example, a new institution, European External Action Service, and the position of High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, who is at the moment at the same time also Vice President of the European Commission. They still had to compete with national diplomacy, of course, to initiate and implement CFSP and CSDP decisions. And that is why also we say that the European External Action Service is a sui generis institution within the European Union, which is also a sui generis international organization. And since the beginning of this millennium, the European Commission has gone through intensive changes, pushed by external factors and internal evolution as well. As a result of these processes and to the strengthening link between the supranational actors like the European Commission and also the European Parliament, the Commission has become more political in our days and less technical, I would say that. Especially that happened during the Juncker Commission, but also later that was possible. And following the financial and economic crisis and due to the reforms on the economic governance, the Commission started to extend its activities beyond its original competencies. According to the historical institutional approach, historical events and institutional structures influences the development and the behavior of institutions, like also the European Commission. And for example, the creation of the EDF, European Defence Fund, highlights a new type of spillover from the economy to defense. And according to this concept, the Commission can support integration by acting as a policy entrepreneurs. And also the Commission has empowered itself through this spillover effect. According to the, just a few words about the European Commission. It's a supranational institution. It's the more European institution as well. We say that the Council and the European Council are more intergovernmental, and the European Parliament is the institution which is closest to the citizens. But the CFSP pillar, within the CFSP pillar, the initiative is shared with member states. And it is also exercised by the High Representative, who is also part of the Commission, as he or she is also Vice President of that. But it is a principal policymaker in the field of defense industry as well, and oversees the implementation of the EU law in member states by the end of the treaties. Politically, of course, responsible for the European Parliament. According to the European treaties, the Commission has only limited responsibility for defense industry as part of the EU industrial policy and single market. But the activities of the Commission on defense-related issues goes back to the 90s, when during that time, vainly, unsuccessfully, supported the modification of Article 223. Now that is the Article 346 on safeguard of national security interests. And also supported the establishment of new agency for defense-related activities. And in 2003, the European Commission proposed the gradual creation of European defense equipment market in order to strengthen European defense technological and industrial base. European Defense Agency, but that was also proposed by the European Commission, was established in 2004, but it's a separate agency and it works under the authority of the Council. This is the only one agency. The defense is a very sensible area for member states, and it is also an intergovernmental body, but it was very, very important to create it. In 2007, that agency issued the strategy of European defense and technological and industrial base. During the 2010s, however, member states fulfill those strategic goals, objectives only to a limited extent. But there are factors behind the developments, behind the growing role of the European Commission, the creation of European security and defense policy, and today we call it common security and defense policy, was driven by the devastating experience, as I said before, of the Yugoslav wars, and by the reality that during that time, at the beginning of 90s, the European Union was not able to intervene and to stop those military conflicts by itself, as the active role of the US and NATO was inevitable. And in that, in order to stop the military conflicts. In our case, the war in Ukraine has become a new driving force, unfortunately, for further integration in the field of defense, because also the European Union had started to think about strategic autonomy, which is a which is a concept very criticized sometimes. And beside the Russian aggression in Ukraine, there are also other factors behind the increased cooperation in the field of defense. For example, I can mention the changing US foreign policy. During the Barack Obama administration, it was the pivot to Asia. And after that, it was the weakening transatlantic relationship, and that also had an effect on the European Union and on the Europeanization of defense policy. And also the decision of the UK to leave and the European Union, so the Brexit, and also the financial crisis. And in our case, defense policy plays a decisive more among the priorities of European governments as well. The financial crisis had an effect also because during that time, 2008, 2009, member states started to spend less on defense. But today it's different. This defense spending of EU member states decreased with 9%. Between 2008 and 2016. Today, they are spending significantly more, and defense expenditure reached 270 billion euros in 2023. So it's much more than it was before. But we also have to say that only 18% of the investment was released in a collaborative way within the European Union. And in 2016, Brexit represented a window for opportunity. We're making steps further in the field of defense. And UK was well known for its Eurosceptic approach. And also, but we have to have emphasized that not all of the initiatives was hindered by the by the UK. Only those representing clear supranationalism and Europeanization of the defense policy. For example, other industrial initiatives related to common procurement or research were supported by the United Kingdom as well. Turning point and alphabet soup is 2016. Of course, the war full-scale war started in 2022, but we have to go back because Crimea was annexation of Crimea happened in 2014. That also had an effect, and also the military conflict started much earlier, so had an effect also on the European Union. And until the referendum, until 2016, it was quite difficult. But however, the possibility of Brexit gave new impetus to strengthening European defense policy and consequently also, on the other hand, the relationship between the European Union and the NATO. And NATO and the European Union were forced by the weakening of multilateralism and also the return of great power politics to Europe and the return of war to Europe. After the adoption of the global strategy in 2016, this process has been accelerated. And we have steered the global strategy and set the goal of strategic autonomy and also strengthening the European Union as a security community. And the implementation of the strategy started. And since 2017, the realization of deeper European defense cooperation has been built on at least on six initiatives. MPCC is the military planning and conduct capability. PESCO is the permanent structure cooperation. CART is the coordinated annual review on defense, European Defense Fund, European Peace Facility, and also rapid deployment capacity. I would mention MPCC created a permanent command structure for EU non-executive military operations, and with the creation of the EDF, it became possible to fund research and joint development from the European Union budget. That was the first time. And these achievements were unimaginable for just a decade ago. So it was a very important step in the field of defense policy. I have to mention, when we are talking about the European Commission, the announcement of Juncker in 2015, when he said that the European Union needs an EU army. Of course, we don't talk about more about an EU army, but that announcement was important, was a kind of food for thought. And also it helped the discussion about defense related issues and the European Union. 2019, I would like to mention Ursula von der Leyen. She proposed to create the European Defense Union by 2025. We are in 24, so still we don't have too much time to realize that. And to lead a geopolitical commission. So that was the commission between 19 and 24, which is ending now. And 2020, Joseph Borrell stated that the European Union needs to learn the language of power. Language of power mean military power mainly. And 2020 State of the Union speech of Ursula von der Leyen, she that time didn't talk about European Security and Defense Union or strategic autonomy, but that was the year of COVID-19 pandemic, so it was less important. But after that, of course, 2022, the whole issue came back, and that is the area of the strategic compass, which also mentions strategic autonomy, and 23 European Defense Agencies annual conference. That conference, Ursula von der Leyen talked about, again, the European Union should go towards fully fledged European Defense Union. 24 Munich conference, Ursula von der Leyen said that if I would be the president of the next European Commission, I would have a commissioner for defense. That was a very interesting announcement because defense policy belongs to the competencies of national governments within the European Union. But on the other hand, it's a very new thing, and probably it will cover mainly defense industry. In September, that was still 2019, when she talked about the Geopolitical Commission and the need to create a defense union. And also, which was very new, that within the European Commission, a new Directorate General for Defense Industrial space was created, responsible for supporting the competitiveness and innovation of European defense industry by guaranteeing the development of an effective European defense technological and industrial base. DG DEFIS has an important role in implementation and oversight of European Defence Fund, manages also Commission activities regarding the action pair of military mobility. Military mobility is also a PESCO project, and a very important project for the cooperation between NATO and the European Union. European Council in Versailles, member states had an announcement and about express their commitment for enhancing European defense technological and industrial bases, and asked the European Commission to continue planning in that policy area. And what was important also in 2024, that the so-called European Defense Industrial, the first ever, was published by the European Commission in March 2024. And the European Commission and the High Representative published this new first defense industrial strategy, which aims to increase the resilience of the European defense industry through collaborative research, investment, production, and procurement actions. This strategy also provides concrete indicators for the European defense industrial policy. It invites member states to procure at least 40% of defense equipment in a collaborative manner by 2030, and the value of intra-EU defense trade present at least 35% of the value of EU defense market, and to make steady progress towards procuring at least 50% of defense investment within the EU by 2030 and 60% by 2035. In July 2024, so just last month, Ursula von der Leyen, in her speech as a candidate for the second mandate of the European Commission, she, as president for the European Commission between 2024 and 29, she stated that member states will retain, of course, responsibility for the national security and their armies. And NATO will remain the pillar of our collective defense, of course. It is very interesting because now there are more and more documents and strategies and statements where the European Union is declared like a European pillar in the field of defense of NATO. So it's a development which is quite new, because we were talking about more strategic autonomy. Now there are more discussions about open strategic autonomy. And she also stated that our spending of defense is too low and also ineffective, and our foreign spending is too great. We must therefore create a single market for defense, because we have the single market for different goods, but not for defense industry. Still, we need to invest more. And she also said that we have to set up new common European projects. She talked about the creation of a European air shield as well, and also the appointment of a new commissioner for defense. And she also stated that it would be quite new thing that the European Commission is going to prepare, probably with the High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, a white paper on the future of European defense during her first 100 days. And during the last decade, as conclusions, European Commission has gone through several changes accelerated by external factors and internal developments, institutional reforms, and also there were several factors behind these processes. I can mention, as I said before, it's Russian aggression in Ukraine mainly, and also other international developments. The increasing role of the Commission in defense industry policy has been interpreted as a game changer for realizing a partial shift from intergovernmentalism to supranational governance in the European defense market, as and the creation of the management of the EDF affected also this traditional distinction between intergovernmentalism and supranational decision-making processes, and also the creation of for example, DAFIS within the Commission was a very important factor. And now the realization of European Defence Union by 2025 and collaborative defence industrial cooperation were promoted by the European Commission, and the rule significantly changed, mainly by the Russian aggression in Ukraine. And I would finish here. Thank you for your attention.